It's time again, it's time for disorganized play. It's time again, let's all get together today. Oh, hi, hello. Oh, you caught me in the midst of singing my theme song, which is what we just heard. Hey everybody, I'm Tom Lommel. The guy walking away, the guy running away, is Dom Zook. We are here today for Disorganized Play. Every Tuesday, I talk about the issues and plot elements facing me in this week's session of Dungeons & Dragons. On Wednesday, I get the players together. Technically, I think, Dom, you get the players together. I show up. We play a game of Dungeons & Dragons, and then on Thursday, I come back and sit down, typically with Dom, to talk about how the game went, and how things were different, how things were good, how things were bad, what was janky, sometimes junky, sometimes janky, could be both. All of those things. So that's kind of the end to end. You get to see my DM's process. It's going to be an interesting week. I'm moving this week, and we're way off the rails in the adventure, so we've got a lot of ground to cover here today. Or we've got a lot of ground to invent. I'm not sure which of those things is true. Maybe both.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. So, and then on top of it, I just show up 5 minutes before the stream starts and complain about why things aren't ready. Typical talent. That's what they call me. The guy who just has to say stuff, not the guy who actually does stuff. I'm talent. He's the producer. So, that being said, that's how it works. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad to see you all here. Thank you for the congratulations, DJ Regular. The Mayor, tune in for the Mayor. I'm in episode 11. They have a new episode tonight. I'm not in that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it, because if not enough people watch it, then it won't come back for a second season. Right. And if it does come back for a second season, there's a very good chance I would be back for at least part, if not many parts, of season 2.
Spoiler alert, Tom is the mayor.
That is not true.
Oh.
That is not true. However, be that as it may, we have plenty of non-Hollywood issues to discuss today. Let's run down the list. Ailerod's Tower, that is the Tower of Erythor Killraven. For those of you who remember or have been following the storyline closely, Erythor Killraven has been identified as the mastermind behind all of this, or at least the major funder or patron, whatever you want to call it. So he's getting painted increasingly as the big bad guy, even though technically Robin Dare in the adventure was supposed to be the puppet master pulling the strings of what was going on. We've since taken that up a notch. Since last episode, the party soundly defeated Robin Dare.
Yeah.
Which, so we're going to talk about Ailerod's Tower. We're going to talk about the Palace of Mirrors, which is something that was unlocked by chat and has been identified as quote-unquote a shortcut. And then we're going to talk about some outstanding plot elements that we still need to pay off. So I thought about doing a full plot radar, or maybe even like a plot kind of combustion grinder thing here for the session, but I did not make that happen. So we will talk about it in the abstract rather than putting things into the organized columns. I think. That's what I think. If you all disagree, that's fine.
If you want to check out the adventure that Tom has been running, it is on livingforgottenrealms.com. It is Stage Misdirections.
Yes.
And I just posted a link in chat. You probably got it before you were even hearing me say this. So check it out. It's just a free PDF. And you can somewhat follow along, although I think we've been making a few adjustments to it as we've gone.
I would say up until... let's see. Last session, maybe the session previous. So in the previous session, they went back and talked to Fyrus Wintersteel. That I think is still sort of somewhat on task, or at least could be considered part of the adventure, because there's somebody's supposed to confess to all this stuff in the scene at the theater, right? We had the big fight at the theater. It didn't really work out that way. So, beginning with their visit with Xanathar, that's where things really started to go off the rails there, right? So that's, up until that point, you can really kind of follow along what we've been doing on this little interlude in Waterdeep thing and see where I've strayed from the text and enhanced the text and that sort of thing. At this point, we are now definitively well beyond what the adventure outlines as the events of the story, right? And some of that is because I'm trying to make sure that we kind of like hit our end note, for Christmas, right before the holiday break. I want to make sure that we land on something like a decent payoff or whatever. So, but some of that also is it just has not become a fulfilling. I really should think about putting this on the other side. I don't feel like they've hit that moment of fulfillment where they go, oh, I get it, now we got them. Mm-hmm. I don't think the players feel like they've figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone is somewhat playing a different game,
No, I'm curious what you mean by that. I'm curious what your interpretation of that is.
Well, like I think Eric is going after the mystery.
Okay.
And I think Gaurav is going after the baddie, but he doesn't know which baddie to go after.
Uh-huh.
And I think Havana is kind of flirting between those two places and kind of ambivalent about it all. And then Megan is just trying to make her character still fit in.
Yeah, she's sort of like playing catch up, like what's my role in this group,
right.
and that sort of thing. Yeah.
But I think that because of that, it's made it difficult for them to sort of band together and kind of work on who to talk to and where they're going and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's. I guess that's interesting. I mean, since you put it that way, I think there's. Addicted Decoy says they have so much information, but they got everything in such a short time they got confused. At least I feel like that's the case. They got a pretty big information dump out of that letter, right? Like that really like pointed the finger at Robin Dare. But then they went and confronted him, and that ritual started, right? So it feels like that letter that sort of paid off what this was. We're at a point where if the mystery was just, hey, somebody started a riot and poisoned a dude at a theater, that mystery's over.
Right.
Right? They know that Gingy concocted the poison. They know that Robin Dare or one of his affiliates orchestrated the poisoning and orchestrated the riot, most likely. But like many mysteries, it seems like it always starts with something sort of like innocuous, and then a larger plot is revealed, right? And I think that's where we've come to, where now a larger plot has been revealed. In capturing Robin Dare, one of the things that Chat unlocked was it's worse than they think, right?
Right.
And so that's how we've sort of made this leap from let's solve this mystery of people are infiltrating the theaters of Waterdeep and maybe kind of figure out why. That's sort of like gone by the wayside, and now they were doing this thing to complete some sort of ritual, and it looks like the ritual's taken another step. All right, and so now we've sort of shifted from a mystery investigation into a let's save the world type of scenario, more of an action movie type of genre, rather than let's investigate and put the pieces together type of thing. So we've done a very much, especially from this last session, we've done this big shift into a whole nother gear, a new genre, or different style of game, which I don't think is bad. I almost feel like it's a change back out of mystery investigation mode, back into let's be Dungeons and Dragons and badasses kind of guys. Somebody's here, Dom.
No.
They're here.
Wait, someone set the alarm.
Someone set the alarm. I don't know. There's a beeping. So that's, but I think, I don't know if you recall, but last week, I believe it was last week, I said, let's get out of mystery investigation mode, that this isn't fulfilling, it's not paying off, there's a lot of confusion over what our characters' intentions are, what their goals are, what their motivations, how their motivations align, etc. Like, I think it was time to get out of mystery investigation mode because I don't think it didn't have the big payoff that I wanted to have. I didn't necessarily set it up very well to have that big payoff. So overall, it's been like a typical mystery, in my experience, a typical mystery investigation type of adventure where the players are a little bit confused. They're not sure. I haven't done a great job of putting things out in front of them that they can then connect the dots on. Mm-hmm. They haven't been doing a good job of keeping track of all of their various clues from session to session. And it's sort of gotten into this wandering, kind of this meandering sort of mess. And I think plot-wise, it's been a mess. I think it's still been fun. It's been a fun experience.
Yeah.
So I don't think the players are super frustrated, like, we don't know what to do, and I don't know where we should go next, or anything like that. Like, they've been able to follow the opportunities that have been handed to them. It has been very sort of like A to B to C, and C turns out to be, haha, look at, I'm the evil bad guy, rather than like adding up, let's go to C because of B, E, and F, or whatever, right? So it hasn't paid off in a great, we're geniuses who solved the mystery. It's not a great Sherlock Holmes adventure. It's still been fun and interesting, and there's been I think there's been some good character development. There's been a lot of intriguing things that happen within the game.
Yeah.
But as a mystery adventure, I don't think it's been successful from the DM side of things, and probably not from the player side of things. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could sit any one of the players down and say, okay, explain what was the mystery.
Sure, yeah.
So,
yeah. Like I said, I think Eric picked up on that, but I feel like the plethora of information was taken to, like, I think it overloaded some senses, and so instead of compiling it in a way, they're just like, okay, now we've got this stack of information, but I don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think there's two things that are at odds with each other, right? So one is that as the DM, when you're running mystery investigation, you want to drop clues out there, but you don't want to shed too much light on any one particular thing so that the mystery becomes obvious right at the beginning, right? Yep. So that's hard. And then secondly, I think that particularly the way this adventure is structured. And no. Secondly, what I want to say is, I think, on the other hand, that players tend to want to, like, Occam's razor everything. Like, take the shortest possible route from A to B. You know, oh, okay, we found these coins from this particular tavern. Let's go there and talk to the guy who did this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the guy who did this isn't there. Oh, really? Oh. Okay, I don't know. What do we do?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should talk to somebody who might know that. Okay, we'll talk to the bartender. Is the bartender involved? No, he's not involved. He just knows somebody. Okay, tell us who it was. Mm-hmm. Like, the players always, in my experience running these things, the players always want to take the shortest possible route through the mystery. And they don't necessarily always go, okay, we're just going to kind of put a circle around him as a maybe. We're going to put a circle around her as a maybe. And if we can start drawing some lines between them and some other pieces of evidence, then we'll zero in. It's like, this guy's guilty.
Yeah.
Even if the guy's shady for some other reason, which is classic mystery investigation style adventure, right? Is we got to go talk to the guy in the gray cloak. Oh, okay. He seems very nervous and unwilling to speak with you. Yeah, that's because he's having an affair with a mistress and he doesn't want his wife to find out, and he's afraid that you've been sent by his wife. Players will immediately jump to, oh, this guy's guilty. Let's take him into the wash and turn him in, right? So, so that's that's part of it. Is the dynamic tension here is that the GM wants to obfuscate the plot in a way to make it challenging, and the players want to cut through the plot in as deliberate as fashion as possible.
Yeah,
and that creates a lot of friction between you as the DM and them as the players, because they start throwing stuff out there that they start jumping to conclusions on stuff, and then I feel like a jerk for going, nah, no.
Right. Yeah.
Those conclusions don't pay off, and then they get mad because they took this course of action and wasted some time, and they don't understand what's going on. So. To me, that's one of the essential dynamics at play in terms of running a mystery investigation. For better or for worse, I mean, it's been an entertaining time. It's been an interesting exploration of that. I'm glad we're not running a mystery investigation as the campaign.
Sure.
But be that as it may, we've now shifted back over into heroic save the world mode, right? Where this is really more of a recap than anything else, but that's fine. We've shifted into a save the world sort of heroic mode, where there are these 9 various human sacrifices that are levitating 200 feet above the city of Waterdeep, and they're apparently burning up in this big swirling kind of inverse vortex tornado of flame, and it has something to do with Ravendaire's plan and machinations and Erethdor Killraven's involvement therein. That's the lead that they've got to go on. Is Ravendaire's it's too late, and I've essentially he said I've already set off the bomb kind of thing, and so they have to somehow intervene. So that's sort of where we're now at, and my task in terms of the pacing of what's going to happen in the campaign here is I have this week and I have next week to sort of push this thing to a climax and then close it down, right? And do the denouement. And then we have one more week after that before we go on a holiday break. Now, I have some room to sort of bleed over into that third week if I need to. I'd like that third week to just sort of be a palate cleanser. Let's play something fun, lighthearted, and goofy. So really that's why I'm looking at, okay, over the next 2 weeks, that's where I'm looking to go with this thing. So what do we have in front of us? This is what I'm looking at in terms of how this intersects with today's topics. So we've got some sort of encounter at Ailerod's Tower, which is the estate of Erethdor Killraven. We've introduced this element called the Palace of Mirrors, which is a shortcut. And then finally, today I want to talk about some other plot elements that are sort of hanging unresolved that need to be that have the possibility to be addressed, right? That are ripe to be included. So overall, where we're going with this is we know that somehow Asmodeus is involved. Either he's being directly summoned or somehow his influence is being magnified. We know that Laeral Silverhand has gone missing. She is the open lord or open lady of Waterdeep. She's the ruler of the head of the lords of Waterdeep, the heads of the ruling body. So that seems bad. And so the players are sort of tasked with how do we stop this ritual. Now, some things that I think are clunky are Talia. What's Talia's last name? I wrote it down.
Talia Shire.
No!
Different Talia.
I couldn't find it. I didn't leave a folder here, did I?
No.
I couldn't find my folder with all my handouts in it. That was very disturbing. Yeah.
We've got Amy's folder of everything.
That's right. She's so good about being organized like that. Talia Vandir, right? So she has said, okay, we've got to get over to the Killraven estate and see what's going on. Bird song. Well, maybe.
Oh, no.
I have to talk to...
Havana?
I have to talk to Havana about that and see whether she wants to explore that family angle at this point. Mm-hmm. She had said that she didn't earlier in the campaign, but maybe she's developed her character enough where it would be an interesting area to pursue. Sure. I don't know. So this is the kind of our for me, this is the stumbling point where Talia Vandermeer says we've got to go to Killraven's estate and find out exactly what he's up to trip this thing off, right? Mm. And it feels like that got introduced at the end of last session. The connection or the motivation was a little bit weak and tenuous, right? The players were like, no, shouldn't we go and try and stop one of these things? Mm-hmm. And I think, in my mind, and the way I would present it through her is, by going to Killraven's estate, we are going to stop one of these things. Yeah. If anybody knows what's going on, he's the mastermind behind all of this, and it's time to sort of confront him in the open. So that, I think, needs to be presented to the players, because I think the players are like, oh no, like, they see these bodies burning up, and there's this vortex of fire, and all these alarms going off, and I think they feel like they're operating on a time scale of, we have 10 minutes to put an end to this. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, it's more of a process of like, they probably have an hour or something like that. Okay. Right? So that's one of the things that's tricky, is I think the players feel a lot more time pressure than, they don't have the same understanding of the time scale as maybe what my assumptions are. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Why do we need to go to Ailerod's Tower? So one of the things that's in this letter is that there is a connection between Ailerod's Tower and a place called the Silver Stronghold. And I think another stumbling block that I created for myself in terms of, I've got this letter that has this info dump in it, right? But it's got so much information in it that I think they looked at it and they're kind of like, mm-hmm. Let's read this some other time, and then they never did. Because there's a lot of stuff that's specifically called out in that letter, and I think that Megan does a good job of like actually taking a moment to read that stuff. Mm-hmm. But everybody else at the table, and they've got things going on and whatnot. They didn't want to read it on stream, which I completely get. But then we never had a moment of like, why don't you guys read through that thing and actually like digest the information? Yeah. Because then I think some of the plot would become a little more obvious to them. Because in the letter it says, this archmage, Erythor Killraven, has created this extra-dimensional clubhouse for all of the Moonstar recruits that he has created at the Bardic College. And it's an extra-dimensional place called the Silver Stronghold, and it's connected to his tower, Ailerod's Tower. So now, if the players would kind of like tune into that, they would know, oh, okay, well, obviously in order to get into this silver safehold, where probably all of the goods, all the dirt is kept on what's going on, probably where Erythor Killraven is holed up, mm-hmm. we need to get there through Ailerod's tower. Then it would make more sense, like, oh, we should go to his estate.
Right.
So there's a lot of information in that letter. The thing is very dense. And it's funny because it's almost counterintuitive again, where, like we had last session, you can ask the mastermind of the conspiracy anything you want about the conspiracy, and they're like, no way.
Yeah, right. Right.
And likewise, it's like there's a lot of the conspiracy that's laid out in this very information-dense letter, and they just, like, it's too much for them to digest at one time. You almost have to kind of like piece it out in conversation or something like that. We may benefit from having a moment of Talia going, what do you know about the conspiracy so far? And here's what I know. Mm-hmm. And do you have any? Well, he burned that letter though, didn't he? Did he burn it? He just took it with him.
I think he just took it with him.
He took it with him. All right.
Yeah.
So she could find this thing and be going through it. She could reiterate some of the highlight plot points of that thing if she so chose. It's a good question of whether she will do that or not. But I think it all comes back to like the fundamental play experience of Dungeons and Dragons is information flow, right? And sometimes, especially during mystery investigation, there's not enough information flow, or you're dropping red herrings and you're kind of giving them false leads to throw them off the track, so it's not like immediately obvious who the killer is. And then sometimes you pump too much information at them and they go, I don't even know. I can't process it. They can't put it together. So I don't know. It's always one of those things that strikes me as interesting, is that really information flow is the primary mechanism of a role-playing game. All right. So
I sort of feel like sometimes information needs to be designated to someone similarly to if you were tracking gold or party equipment or something like that, like having an accountant in the party. We on our blog a long time ago, we had a writer wrote an article about being the accountant and how to sort of incentivize that for a player, giving them XP or whatever, to be the person who manages all of that information. And I almost feel like, especially in doing an information-heavy module or campaign or something, like having someone who is dedicated to compiling that information and meeting it out to the rest of the party in a way that they can sort of grasp onto.
I mean, I've toyed with the idea of having like a party scribe, somebody who's actually responsible for the recap every week and things like that.
We tried that with Barkeys, I think, and with Bloss Brigade, to mixed success.
Yeah. I think it's a thankless job, part of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the one, and it's also one of those like self-fulfilling prophecies sort of situations where if we make Dom the party scribe, then everybody else at the table goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. He's got it.
I mean, if Dom's going to recap for us next week, I don't know why we have to kind of like pay attention to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Side note, you don't want me being the party scribe.
I mean, whoever it is. I mean, there are definitely people who enjoy the creation, like the authorial kind of position of being the scribe and telling the tales and sort of recasting them. And I really appreciate it when a player has that kind of motivation, is willing to give a really good and interesting recap. And I've done it too myself as the DM, like, okay, well, I'm going to write up the recap for the party. And it also turns into a thankless job where it's like, yeah, I'm writing this fun recap, and it allows me to kind of jockey facts around a little bit. Like, the nice thing about writing the recap as the DM is, oh, I didn't quite position that quite the right way. Mm-hmm. Like, say, for instance, that final scene with Talia. Well, I could sort of like tweak that and put a little more context, put a little more spin on it, and then when they read the recap, they go like, "Oh yeah, we totally want to go over there." It makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why it seemed kind of weird at the time, but no, that totally makes sense. Like, there's an advantage to it, but it's a lot of work. So I was appreciative when a player actually sort of takes that job, that task upon themselves. But I think it's a very difficult thing. Number one, to give like DM incentives, like, okay, you're gonna get extra XP or something like that. And then number two, just what happens with the play dynamic at the table. I think it gives people a reason to sort of like check out a little bit in terms of like having to understand the thing. When they would just be like, wait a minute, why do we need to go see this guy again? And then all of a sudden, the scribe person becomes sort of like the second DM.
Right.
If they're down for that role, great. It's a terrific, asset to have at your table when you're the DM. But if they're not down for that, then when they start falling down on the job or they start regretting the job, then it becomes problematic, right? Yeah, D&D notes always. I mean, really, I really want a look at Havana's notes. I want to see what Havana's like. What sort of adventure you would put together just based on Havana's notes, knowing nothing else about the game. Just to scroll back a little bit, Addicted Decoy says, Xanathar had the letter. Wouldn't he be interested in protecting the city and therefore giving information to Talia? So that actually is one of the plot elements that's due, right? So let's talk in a high level about where we're going with this thing and what the possible arcs are. Because honestly, like, I don't have a strong commitment to what's going to happen this session or the following session, right? Like, if we look at where we want to, let's look at some things that we want to pay off at the end. Maybe we'll work our way backwards up the list, right? So if we look at the plot elements that are due, a big one is Gingy needs to get his comeuppance, reward, payoff, whatever that is, right? So that's something needs to happen with Gingy. We'll see where that goes. Xanathar wants his map. That needs to get resolved one way or another, right? Who knows?
Just lobotomize Avril and
get
some mind flayers in there.
Yeah,
maybe?
it's interesting. I mean, he might be willing to like make a trade-off, or I don't know. Like, I think in my mind, it's almost sort of like a Buckaroo Banzai style thing, where the knowledge of the map can be transferred if you do it right. And I think one of the reasons that Xanathar knows that he doesn't have a good copy of the map is if he did, it would be burned into your brain, right? Like, it's a lot like having a counterfeit coin, right? You might have a coin that looks exactly like a quarter, but then when you put it into the laundry machine or the arcade game or whatever, it just keeps falling through.
Right.
Like whatever that detection mechanism is inside the machine, it goes, nope. It's like having a Canadian quarter, I guess. So Xanathar on the map needs to be resolved by the end. However, along those lines, there was a very interesting proposition that was put on the table of slay Asmodeus. And Xanathar intimated that he could do this, or that he could supply the party with the tools to do this. He said, I would need some time, but I could make it happen. Now, I think that is a really fascinating campaign climax. I hope I'm spelling her name right. Find Laryl Silverhand. What is that? Little bug. Little bug. So Lady Laryl Silverhand is missing. She's the Lord of Waterdeep. She needs to be discovered. She needs to be found or whatever. That's fine. Stop the ritual. Obviously needs to happen. That kind of goes without saying, in my opinion. And the other thing that there's two other things that we have hinted at, right? I want to put them down as 3 different bullet points. Purify Black Razor.
I don't know that Asmodeus is planned as the end game to Iron Keep. I don't think Iron Keep yet has an end game. As Del Castillo says, already planning an overall end game to Iron Keep.
That's a great question. We've talked about, we haven't really talked about the end to Iron Keep at this point. So
they haven't really even gotten to play in Iron Keep yet. They had a very brief moment in there, and then
I have to say, I had much more grandiose plans for the Iron Keep, but they sort of. So what happened there was we got to the end of White Plume Mountain, and I said, "What do you want to do next?" And there was a big push of, "I want to go to Waterdeep." For whatever reason, that was certainly something that Amy voiced, right? Was like, I want to go to Waterdeep. I want to explore Waterdeep. I want to have sort of an urban adventure type of thing. And so that's what led us from. That's why we went shifted so hard from out of White Plume Mountain into you've been summoned to Waterdeep, and that's how they discovered this stuff that was going on, etc. So I had ideas for exploring the other wings of the castle or the fortress, whatever you want to call it. But that got pushed to the side, partly so that we could sort of wrap up this big storyline with Amy's character. But now that that's kind of underway, I think the rest of the party has pushed it aside too. I don't think they feel a need to go back there.
I feel like Gaurav wants to go back to Iron Keep. I think he's curious as to what it is. I mean, it is the name of the show, so eventually we'll have to go back. But
yeah. As Addicted Decoy points out, there's a lot there left to explore. They missed that Avril could become one of the lords because she's wielding wave. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot to go into. Maybe Barrier Peaks has some connection back.
Yeah, I mean, I do definitely think that Barrier Peaks is going to be an interesting opportunity to explore the doppelganger aspect of Eric's character. Because there are doppelgangers in Expedition of the Barrier Peak. So I think there's some opportunity there. Yeah.
So, So getting back.
And this sort of ties into this whole thing with Warwent the Tinker, right? Or whatever you want to call him. Remember there was a toy fair?
Yeah.
It feels like it was 10 years ago. Was that the Power?
Yeah, maybe.
I will tell you, it's been a weird day in Los Angeles. There's literally 50,000 acres of land to the north, and west of us that's on fire.
Yeah.
If you drive one way on the 101, everything is cool and a little breezy and fine and fun. And if you took a U-turn and turn back the other way, you are staring into a wall of smoke.
I took a picture. I was walking Harold earlier, and I literally went out of my house, hung a left, walked him. Then when I turned around, I saw that the entire sky was was gray. Like literally, it's just to the north. It's actually way to the east of us, or to the west of us. But the Santa Ana winds that come through here have blown everything kind of over the entire valley where we are. And so yeah, you can walk out and it's just a pure blue, no cloud in the sky,
Beautiful kind of fall,
70 degrees,
whatever.
Yeah, but then you turn around and then oh my God, there's this huge hellscape of ash
apocalypse.
just dropping down on.
It's not as dramatic as when Burbank was on fire. Like
Right.
that was like,
Yeah.
oh, all right, there's giant orange flames coming over the hill. This is just like, there's giant orange flames somewhere, I don't know where, but there's a lot of smoke from it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you, I have family and friends and stuff that live over in Ventura and everything. They are so far they're okay, but yeah, it's bad over there. But we're just getting the brunt of the ash fall and everything like that. So it's just like we can't go for walks.
Yeah.
For
The
prolonged
Santa
walks
Anas
or
are just
anything.
weird.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, thank you for your well wishes. So I think in terms of what's our payoff here, like if we look at our big beats, the big beats are really this one. You know, stop this ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever those, like if that involves slaying Asmodeus or confronting Asmodeus. That's fine, right? Xanathar wants his map back. That's a big beat. And dealing with Gingy is also a big beat. Those are the things. Everything else is these are sort of bullet points in terms of
Plot hooks of
where do we
future-
go?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do we go after the beginning of the new year? Right? All right. So, in between, you're kidding
Uh-oh.
me.
That is not a.
This inside cover is not dry erase. Genius.
Well, now you've got that forever.
I've got it forever. I was like, that doesn't seem right. Well, guess what? It's not right. Funny. Well, since we're on a new page. So, over here we've got
Addicted Decoy asks, what could Xanathar have on them if they confront Asmodeus and basically save his city? As in, what could prevent them from having something over Xanathar? Or is there something else there in that question? And yeah, it is a dry erase spiral notebook. The
It
white
is called a wipe book.
Wipe
you can
book.
find it on Amazon, or I think you can just go to wipebook.com.
Find it on Amazon. Use our link.
Use our link on Amazon.
Or whatever you want to do. Okay.
Yeah. What could Xanathar have on them if they confront Asmodeus and basically save his city? Right?
Asmodeus.
Oh boy, you're just feeding the fire here.
I literally think that someone did that. Actually, I literally think that because that's how I think.
I always said
literally.
Asmodeus when I was, and then somebody else said Asmodeus.
You have to say it Asmodeus if you're doing it when Rock Me Amadeus, but Asmodeus is how I normally say it.
Addicted Decoy says he wants the map, but what can he give them or threaten them with in order to get it? Well, I think he is, as the most powerful crime lord in the city, I think he has any number of resources that he could, levers that he could pull against the party. I think that's a matter of like which piece of DM fiat do you want to deploy? Do you want to, threaten their families? Do you want to have them in prison? Do you want to confront them with overwhelming force? Do you want to go down a very dark road and torture it out of them? Do you want to capture part of the party and then try and, blackmail or force the other, you could I don't know about very easily, but you could capture Grayson and capture Thawne and then give Avril the choice. Like, well, I'm going to send the two of them to the bottom of Waterdeep Harbor with a water breathing spell that wears off in an hour. You let me know how you want to proceed. I think, I don't, here's the thing. If you're looking at it from the perspective of, well, they found a way to kill Asmodeus, so they're obviously more powerful than Xanathar. I don't think that's true. I think for them to confront Asmodeus, they're going to need pieces of equipment or parts of a ritual that Xanathar is probably going to give them, and that probably only work one time and only work against Asmodeus, right?
I can see also Xanathar potentially, not Xanathar himself maybe, but one of his master thieves pickpocketing the book from Thawne somehow.
Oh.
So that he holds the jail ransom and essentially Thawne's father, but also Sir.
That's true, because they did give up the prison, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other part about this that that dovetails with that is they intimated that Gingy knows a lot more than he's letting on, which is true, but that means they just gave him up to Xanathar, and Xanathar's going to get whatever information he wants out of that guy, right? If you threaten Avril, she will take it very badly, I suspect. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that this proposed course of action is one that I want to pursue.
I guess it all depends on where the party ends up. If he comes knocking for the map, because they said that they would give it to him, right? Did they say that they would do something with?
Well, I don't remember if they even talked
dance
about,
around that.
I think they sort of danced around the fact that they had the map, right? I don't think that came out in the clear.
Yeah.
I think he did say something like, I might be willing to overlook the shadow thieves operating in my city.
Sure. Yeah.
It is, again, also very funny to me how rebellious Havana is on that whole point of like, I should be able to do whatever I want. It's like, you were very specifically told not to get caught in the open doing this stuff. And it's difficult. All right.
Okay. Ailerod's Tower, Palace of Mirrors.
So these things need to set up whatever this confrontation is, right? If we look at this being the linchpin, the payoff next week for this whole thing, then these two elements, plus whatever else we decide to, gets incorporated, needs to set this up, right? So one of the things that needs to be established in Ailerod's Tower is the connection to the silver safehold. Don't forget that we've got the moon stars. There's still more moon stars out there, right? I feel like they defeated a couple of them, but maybe stopping the ritual makes them want to switch bodies so Xanathar can undo it, and he wants the map. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the other things that needs to be defined when they go to Ailerod's Tower is, okay, what's going on? What's the purpose of the ritual? I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that the party is without their equipment right now, and they're going to want to get their equipment. So even before this happens, you kind of have to have like a little side moment where they get geared up. Right? So that's important. And I think the other thing that needs to happen in this tower is we really need to paint the picture
Can we have a whole montage of them connecting belt buckles and things like that?
Yeah, I think what happens is that Talia turns to a bookcase next to the stairwell here in the College of New Ulm, and she flips the bust of William Shakespeare's head back, pushes a button, and the bookcase slides away, and there's a set of 6 poles that they all slide down. So
And they're magically transformed at the bottom of the
You know, I mean, we joke about that, but that would really be fun, right? Like if there was like to pay her off as the scene of kind of the Harper Insider Wizard type of thing, right? I'm gonna write that down as.
You see, chat, you could do this too. Give Tom ideas.
Please.
He needs them.
Yeah, right. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm moving this week.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're way off the beaten path of the adventure. I will shamelessly beg, borrow, and steal for anything.
I think we've established Ava is basically Sailor Moon. I think we've established that. She's Sailor Mercury, I think is what they said. I forget. Havana's the Sailor Moon fan, not me.
Yeah, I've all I know about anime is that it involves a lot of girl robots and a lot of climbing stairs.
I don't know.
And a lot of very particular camera angles when that happens.
That's a different kind of anime.
not that different. I don't remember what I started watching with my wife, but she was like, "Oh yeah, we should watch a couple episodes of this." And I started watching it, and I'm like, "Why do they clamber around on all fours so much?" And she's like, "That's not even the worst of it." Okay. So we need to paint a picture of who Erythor is. Now, we can do that through the environment, possessions, servants. Like, I don't think he's there, right? So those are the main. I think those are the main story points that we need to cover out of Ailerod's Tower, and then the question becomes, what's the challenge of this thing, right? Is it environmental? Like the place is on fire? One of my favorites. Are there guardians? Those are the two main ones that is there some other sort of skill challenge?
It's filling up with acid.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like you have to, the skill challenge could be find your way into the dungeon of this place. Like, what is that? Some of this stuff is what is the challenge is, what's the connection to the Silver Safehold? Because I think that's where the challenge comes in, is how do we unlock this thing? Or more importantly, I think what they're going to find out is that the connection to the Silver Safehold is either difficult or it's been locked. Or it might take hours in order for it to be brought down, right? That then leads us to the Palace of Mirrors. And to me, when I put this thing into a chat unlockable last week, the way I looked at it was, this is sort of an interdimensional nexus. Not really like Sigil, it's not a big city, but it's like a palace-sized place that sits in between the planes, but that you can go to different plays with, right? Or different planes with. But I think there is some sort of guardian or keeper or whatever you want to call it, who can realign can help you transfer from one place to the other, but he wants to know, he wants something in return, right? And I think right now the way I've kind of pictured it in my mind is that he craves information, or specifically, he craves secrets. And that, I think, introduces an interesting role-playing challenge more than necessarily a combat challenge, right? Now, there's also the possibility that you could negotiate multiple trips, or encounter other travelers or residents of the palace. Like, if this guardian guy is basically a traffic cop who's like, let's, you give me this information, I'll shoot you over to this place. You give me this, I'll shoot you over to this place. What if there are other residents who live in the palace who aren't trying to go anywhere? Like, they want to just sort of like be stuck or occupy this place at this interdimensional nexus that's not anywhere, where maybe if it's part of the astral plane or whatever, you don't need to eat or you don't age or whatever, and they just want to basically freeload there, right?
Sure.
They want to couch surf in this place because of the advantages that they have in terms of not needing anything else. Maybe they're on the lam, what have you. So that could provide some interesting role-playing encounters too. Is that they could encounter other people, other evidence, which, the main question is, what would they offer? Or what could they be offered, and what would they have in exchange? Right? So that's where I think, that's what I think is going on with this Palace of Mirrors. I don't see it as a place for a combat type of encounter. The other thing that I think we need to try and incorporate here somehow is, what if he can't just offer transportation, but what if he could negotiate scrying or communication? What if that was as one of the other services? Please be care. Yes. What if they could negotiate scrying or some other type of not just scrying, but a two-way communication, right? That could be interesting. And that actually opens up a ton of possibilities, right? I think, it's one of those situations where you have to kind of be prepared for, like, the party may not know who they want to scry. But it's also, in some ways, it's almost the equivalent of a wish, right? If within this Palace of Mirrors, you could say, all right, you can scry on anyone that you name who's not in an anti-magic zone, but in any dimension, you can see them.
Yeah.
Who do you want to scry on? That's pretty potent, right? And it's not an ability that players typically have. And also, scrying spells in D&D are such a pain in the ass that it's not something that they typically have, in my experience. I don't know. It's something that DMs certainly try to brush off.
New scry, who dis?
So I think there's a lot of possibility here for... It enables us to do kind of like three things, right? Enables us to set the scene of who's what where, and also communicate with allies. And potentially, like, bring them aboard. So this is a pretty, I think this Palace of Mirrors is a pretty meaty. Would Avril scry on her parents? Thomas W. Dion asked. It's a great question. And that's one of the reasons, like, this sort of encounter is so dangerous from a DM's perspective, is like, I need to have an answer kind of in my mind of what happens if she does say that. And you think, okay, well, they're just going to apply it to the scenario at hand, and they're going to scry on Erethdor, and they're going to scry on Xanathar, and, they might scry on somebody else. But, yeah, it would be interesting. Another question that is on board here is, what sort of sacrifice? Would be required for these things to happen? So, in talking through this, yeah, you could scry on your parents and catch them at a very awkward moment. So in talking through this, I think this is really going to be the hub of our encounter tomorrow night. Is a big information gathering and potentially a big communication type of thing. So BKR points out that scrying needs to be on the same plane of existence. I think in the Palace of Mirrors, it's this extra dimensional space that is connected to all other planes. So it actually is sort of like a part of every plane. Like, I would waive that rule for this particular thing. I would consider upping the sacrifice that's involved to activating this. But I think this becomes one of those, like, linchpin fantastical moments. If we went to the Palace of Mirrors and we had to give up X, Y, and Z, but then we were able to, on top of it, not only what if you could scry, but what if you could scry any moment in history, in the past or in the future?
Yeah.
What if you could, time dilate your time travel scry? Clear precognition, postcognition type of thing. So, this, I think, is a very fairly self-contained kind of, like, shorter encounter is how I would picture this, because I think it needs to become fairly clear, like, okay, you can't get to the Silver Safe Hold anymore from this thing. It's been shut down or whatever. I think the Palace of Mirrors offers a bunch more possibilities. I almost want to see them kind of start negotiating small of, okay, well, let's open a communication channel with Xanathar. Okay, that costs you.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it starts off with it's going to cost you some hit points in order to activate this ability? It's almost like a vampiric kind of thing. To like, okay, well, if you want me to open this thing, it's going to cost you ability score points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to drain 2 points of I'm going to drain a point of constitution for every person that you want to, or every minute that you want to have this portal open or whatever it is.
That would be interesting.
What all of this implies is this needs to kind of like not just explain the purpose of the ritual, but also explain the resolution to the ritual, how they stop it. That needs to come in here. Bad writing. All right.
Oh. Pretty good for Sideways.
We did it.
F. Devery says, if Avril scryed on her parents, would it be the bird songs or the hails?
I think she would have to specify that before the scry got activated.
John D. Davies says, what if it's one of each? I don't know if that was referring to the parents or something else, but...
maybe the hit points in the Constitution. I don't know. I like, part of me loves this idea that they have to give up information or secrets, like that the Guardian, maybe the Guardian wants a copy of the map or something like that too. I don't know. Permanent hit points, of course. Well, that's a good question. Permanent hit points or temporary hit points? I
think you'd get someone going ballistic at the table if it made it permanent. But
so what about this idea though? What if
you are essentially giving them potential access to what could constitute a wish spell?
Yeah.
You're not really giving them. So yeah, I think
I think that's okay, right? Like I think it's okay that it is a wish style thing because, there's a ritual has been invoked where 9 beings are literally burning to death 200 feet above the city. It's an epic kind of thing that's going on. It's potentially summoning Asmodeus. Like them having a wish seems like actually like lowballing the amount of power that they're going to need in order to make this happen.
Sure.
But yeah, what if there was a way though, where the Guardian could take temporary hit points out of Black Razor?
Ooh. Depower Black Razor. Not purify, just depower. What if in their final confrontation with Asmodeus, they use the device that Xanathar gave. Didn't he give them a little token or trinket or something?
He gave them a flask of powder, which did I remember to mention it last time? I don't know if I remember.
I think so, yeah. I
remember mentioning it when in the Disorganized play stream, but I don't remember if in the actual play I mentioned it or not.
I thought you did, but but what if they, as they're fighting Asmodeus and he's got the upper hand, they throw down the powder, then comes out.
He comes out in Xanathar's. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. I feel like Xanathar... So that's been presented as activate this teleportation circle and you'll come right back into my chambers. Yeah. And I don't think Xanathar is dumb enough to give them a teleportation circle that goes right to his chambers.
Sure. Yeah.
I've always thought, well, if they decide to use that, they're going to end up in some sort of like holding tank where the guards are like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's me, it's Thawne and Avril and Grayson," and he's like, "Yeah, okay, we'll let you out."
Right,
and they slam the vault door open, and they come out. But yeah, in the meantime, it's just like all of these like arrow slits with like wands pointing at.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting, that the Guardian wants a secret that literally no one else knows. Yeah.
We shall see, I guess.
I think at this point, like we've sort of like tapped, like we see where the map of possibilities can start to form, and we need to kind of just sit down and like kind of tree my way through it a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So we've talked about the plot elements that need to be paid off. This is really gonna bother me. Now I'm kind of mad.
Maybe some 409 will get it out.
Maybe. I don't know. This I think is just regular card stock. Anyway. Yeah. And I think if there was a way for Gingy to get back involved, although I think Xanathar has probably put his thumb on that guy really badly, right? So.
But if I know Gingy, like I think I do.
Well, I think Gingy's probably negotiated something with him, right? Like he's probably tried to weasel his way out of it. I don't know that it's going to work, but I think he might be able to weasel his way out of it. Yeah, we've got a lot on deck here for two sessions, right? This Ailerod's Tower thing is going to take an hour, and this Palace of Mirrors thing, I think, is probably going to take the rest of the session. Yeah, that's.
Ooh, which one was it? This one?
No, that's not the one. It's the top one actually. That's the pro one, but if you look at, there might be more in the store.
There's a plain one.
We're looking up the, yeah, that's probably the one. I don't know if it's grid or not. Yeah, see, I have the graph one. Yeah.
Okay.
Not that it really matters.
I'll give you guys a link.
Look at that. We'll get you a link, and then you can not only get one of your own, but you can support the store. I'll tell you right now, they're $31. So I think I really do think this sort of is our session, right?
Yeah. You think this is two sessions, right? Or did you?
No, I think this is one session.
Get through that and then get over here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Ailerod's Tower needs to be a long involved. If we had kind of unlimited time to play around, we could have sort of a dungeon crawly thing of like go to Ailerod's Tower and explore it and try and infiltrate it or defeat the Guardians who are there or whatever. But I think we need to get the plot moving and put the plot in gear.
I think the decoy says maybe the Guardian wants them to restore Iron Keep. But that doesn't really give them an impetus to move towards the barrier peaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole trick on this thing is like if we really want to do Estel Castillo. Come on now. So our next
3 sessions, not 5. Come on.
So this is next week, right? That's going to be the session for next week, is the assault on the Silver Safe Hold. So I feel like this is one thing. Mm-hmm. And we talked about maybe you can summon an army for this. It would be cool if like Modrons could be involved or something like that.
Get some flumps. Why not?
Flumps? Come on now.
I can loan you some grumps. They're trademarked to me, but I can loan them to you.
All right. I can see people in chat giving me crap from here. Fair enough. I deserve it. All right. So this now, to me, this part of it becomes far more intriguing. Like, I think this could be a really compelling. You know, what I'm noticed, or what I'm worried about is you give them these opportunities, like you could scry on anybody or whatever it is, and they go, yeah, all right, well, we'll scry on Asmodeus or whatever, and then that's it.
Right.
They don't like they do one thing and they're like, okay, cool, let's move on. And you're like, don't you want to talk to anybody who want to?
I do like Addicted Decoy says they need something from barriers to have a chance of restoring Iron Keep, like there's multiple keys or something. I like the concept that because Avril has Wave and Thon has Black Razor, and there are connections now that they are the Lords of Iron Keep, that there could be something here that they get told basically that the Barrier Peaks has something that will help restore something at Iron Keep. And so that they get a little bit of information like, hey, the reason you have the map, why the map imprinted in your brain is because you need this information because you're a Lord of Iron Keep.
Right.
And then it would help connect all the dots so that they go, oh, we have to go to Barrier Peaks, not just because it's a fun place to go to, but because we are looking for something there that will help us back at Iron Keep.
Yeah, I think there could definitely be something where either so here's what we know about the premise of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, right? Which is there was some sort of accident or plague aboard this colony ship, and it made this emergency crash landing into Faerun or Greyhawk, however it happens in your campaign world, and then got embedded in this mountain for hundreds of thousands of years, and then people started, it started opening various doors and then kind of expelling beasts across the land and populating the world with these weird science fiction style creatures. Now, if we have that as sort of the background, there's no reason we couldn't say, okay, part of the ship, like maybe instead of it crashing into the mountain, maybe it was doing like a wormhole jump and it miscalculated the coordinates, and part of it shifted into the planet and got embedded there. But when that happened, or whatever accident, interstellar kind of dimensional vortex accident happened, part of the ship got shunted into another dimension and somebody built this fortress around it. So that part could be in the Iron Keep. So you could go to the Barrier Peaks and go, oh, okay, well, this God's Fire thing is starting to rage out of control and it's actually going to go off. But all of the bridge controls that kind of tell it how to shut down, we don't know where they are. They exist in this, like, they've got shunted into another dimension. And the party can then go, oh, wait a minute, we know how to connect that. Or maybe there's something where they can like use the equipment to locate where that anomaly is.
Yeah.
Yeah, BSB Care points out that Warwent could be, he's a former, so we do have sort of it established that he's from this colony ship, and the Iron Keep was an attempt to establish a colony in Faerun, similar to Roanoke or something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's also a possibility too. Like, what's Warwent's role in all of this? And I think they need to go to the Barrier Peaks crash site in order to understand where he came from. And then using that information, they'll discover something that'll explain kind of where he went or what he's trying to do, or at least maybe even track him down. Right? Like, I think it would not be at all unexpected to find out that, yes, Warwent disappeared because he retreated into the Iron Keep and sort of like has sequestered himself there.
Right.
So, Estel Castillo says, are you at all worried about the party not being responsive to the sci-fi aspects of the adventure? I'm not particularly worried about that because I can guarantee you that basically everybody at the table is going to be excited about having a laser gun. I don't, I think that stuff, I think all of that will be...
Who needs a rainmaker when you have a laser gun?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think they're going to be down for that.
But are they going to get that cool little, like, shoulder-mounted, like...
There's a bunch of really weird stuff in Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. That's honestly one of the big challenges, converting all of the tech into something that, like, makes sense in 5e. And I'm not a big fan of, like, the kind of the vanilla tech conversions that they did. Light maker, blindness maker.
Don't shine in a helicopter pilot's eyes maker.
Get arrested maker. So I'm not super concerned about that shift in tone and kind of what it is. I think it'll be. I think they'll actually. So the interesting difference there is, prior to this, other than getting Wave and Black Razor, it hasn't been a very loot-heavy campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we move to Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, it'll turn into a much more like, let's hunt down the component pieces that give us all this kick-ass power armor and stuff, right? So, yeah. I think if anything, if there's any challenge with Barrier Peaks, the big one is trying to get the players not to metagame and go, oh, it's a robot, I know what a robot is.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this magical crystal screen to reprogram all of the iron golems. Why would you think of that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it's a computer and I want to hack it. Okay.
Ava is a weapon. She doesn't need one.
Ava is a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always difficult to take player knowledge of the genre out of the character.
Some of it is like it's like the challenges on the DM to describe it in a way that sounds like it's being interpreted through a fantasy lens,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
as opposed to going, well, you see a large metal humanoid who has a scanner visor and is wielding 2 pistols.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's.
2 stringless crossbows.
Yeah, right. He's got two odd metallic hand crossbows and a weird crystalline set of goggles.
Yeah. Perhaps he is some sort of warforged or mechanical being.
So BSB Care says, I'm interested in seeing some of the doppelganger stuff that you have up your sleeve with Barrier Peaks. I will just tell you right now as a preview that the biggest challenge with Barrier Peaks, other than the stuff that we've already mentioned in terms of like recontextualizing it, right? And retrofitting the stats and brushing them up to 5e. Actually, I think that part of it is an interesting challenge, but not one of the major challenges. The major challenge in my mind is, as presented, the module is a tournament module, which is basically you get sealed inside of this thing and you have to fight your way out over the next whatever, 3 hours, 3.5 hours of playtime at the convention. Like that's what it's about. And I think to make it an interesting adventure, it needs to have far more role-playing and different factions and things like that. And not everything can just be... I mean, all of those rooms are set up basically for you to walk in, take stock of the room, murder anything that moves, mm-hmm. and then loot as much of it as you can and move on to the next room. There's very little discovery of the story of what's going on. And there's zero interaction with the NPCs, right? The Vegapygmies, like the northern group of Vegapygmies fights the southern group of Vegapygmies. I don't know why. They don't really. It doesn't. There's no interesting characterization going on in the module, and that's what you really have to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Is okay. Let's make some interesting characters and make it a living, dynamic factions. And an ecosystem that is thriving and evolving. Maybe not thriving, but definitely like evolving and responding to the situation, as opposed to there are literally like 200 Vegapygmies who live in this wing of the first level and go kill them, right?
Right.
FD Every says, what if Grayson's form is the actual true form of doppelgangers?
A race of Erics.
I mean, I love that idea of that's actually the natural form. and like you see all these doppelgangers with their weird like brainy kind of like thing or whatever, and they go, just relax, let yourself go into your natural form, and he relaxes and he stays the same, mm-hmm. and then they go, oh. And they relax, and then they all turn into, they look exactly like him. Could be fun. All right, we're over our time, and I have to go home and pack some more. So we'll see how this plays out. We want to give this guy a cool name. We've got plenty of stuff on the docket here. It's a lot of, we're going to have to do a lot of presenting information, getting things like sharpening the pencil and getting details filled in before tomorrow night. Ugh. Got a headache just thinking about it. All right, we will do it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Speaking of Eric, later tonight you can catch episode 2 of the Lords of Grey Haven. Now, if you did not tune into Disorganized Play last Thursday, Eric was on as a guest and we came up with a very interesting twist for how the rest of his mini arc could roll out. And I'm curious to see whether he follows up on that, how he follows up on that, how tonight's session plays out. Because I thought it was, I think he's got a great premise and he's got an interesting party. There was certainly a little bit of kind of like, why are we all here and how do we, do we all know each other at the beginning? Right. Which I think he's going to be able to use to his advantage. So tune in for that tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
8 o'clock Pacific time, so in 4.5 short hours that starts. I haven't looked at the rest of the calendar. Tomorrow night you can jump in and watch our D&D game.
See if we make it through.
See if we make it through this, right? I was over-promise, under-deliver. Everything takes longer than I think.
Then Thursday we recap what happened or what didn't happen.
It's true. Is there any of your show happening this week?
No.
All right.
No.
That's right.
Things are happening with Proficiency Check, but probably not till next year.
Starting tomorrow, we celebrate the 10 days of trees, snow, cold, most happy fun time.
Tree, snow, happy, cold time.
We're going to have to put it on the board up
Yeah. Merry Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time, everybody.
That is our non-denominational celebration of the
yeah.
holiday season.
If you don't remember, last year we had a Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time Roll for Shoes special where we were introduced to what Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time means to everyone. And we are now celebrating the 14 days of Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time starting tomorrow. And
Why is this important to our viewers at home? Because we're going to have a raffle. If we hit at least $100 in the tip jar every night, we will be giving away various things. Everybody who donated that night to the stream is going to be entered in a raffle for some sort of prize or giveaway.
We got lots of cool things. We got loot crates. We have other awesome prizes like, we'll show you as the days go on. But yeah, there's some cool stuff that you can get, and all it takes is $1 into the tip jar, and if we get $100 that night, then it unlocks and the raffle goes away, and everyone who donated even just $1 will be entered to win that prize.
Thomas W. DeYoung says, doesn't Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time discriminate against those of us in the Southern Hemisphere? I would just like to state for the record that here in Los Angeles, we have neither trees, nor snow, nor happiness, nor cold. We do have time, but that's about it.
Yeah, plenty of time.
So
yeah.
It is a title in name only. It bears no relation to what's currently going on outside the window.
Right, yeah. So yeah, it's for everyone. It's for everyone, regardless of the weather you have, or if you have trees or not. Yeah, so that's that. And the days that we are off, we're actually going to be doing some promotion of some charities and stuff that we really like that could use your help this holiday season. So we'll be promoting those on social and everything like that. So it's just a time for giving and being cool, I think, for everyone. So I hope that you can start joining us for that.
Giving and being cool time didn't have
yeah,
as much snap to
but
it.
Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time.
That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
That's a marketing effort I can get behind.
Yeah, Tree, Snow, Happy, Cold Time lives in our hearts. It's for everyone. But so then Thursday night we've got another Crit Juice. Friday night we've got a new Teenagers from Outer Space, which was a lot of fun. If you caught it, it's a 3-episode mini-series that we have. So tonight is episode 2 of Lords of Grey Haven out of 4, and Friday is episode 2 out of 3 of Teenagers from Outer Space. And then we are off this weekend again. Tempting Fate comes back on the 17th for a day, and then then we have holidays after that. But so nothing this weekend, and then we're back on Monday. So
that is the buzz. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, who spread the word. Thank you to Flockwad and the rest of our mods who help keep the channel safe, friendly, and accessible. spread the word about tomorrow night's game. It should be interesting. I'm excited about it. And tune in tonight for Lords of Greyhaven. I'm curious to see where that goes too.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Eric's got. I think we had some great discussion last week, and I want to see how it plays out. So I will not forget my reroll. You know, I want to give a special thanks to everyone who gave me their rerolls last week. I felt like if there's one thing that went off really well, it was really fun to have that moment where all of my stuff was stacked against the players, and we actually got to use it and deploy it and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see, not necessarily this week, but next week, the return of Kung Fu Action Theater mode. When they have the big confrontation at the assault on the Silver Safehold. I'm going to write that down. Kung Fu Action Theater mode. Ding, ding. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate your time, attention, and passion. Until next time, let's dungeon! Great job. Thanks for watching. Dom, you're 1 for 4.
I know.